You're listening to the Fantasy 40 podcast with Andrew Burke, John DeBari, and Matt Walker. Yahoo!
Welcome to the Fantasy 40 podcast. We are back. Myself, Andrew Burke, and I am with the one and only Matt Walker. We're doing a week 9 already preview. It's pretty crazy stuff, ain't it, Walk?
Yeah, I mean, flying by with the week 8 last week that were like the midpoint of the NFL season, and we're already moving towards the playoffs of fantasy football. So, this is either win or go home type time for a lot of teams in Dynasty. It's a lot of evaluation. If you're out of it, this is when you're trying to move parts to these contending teams and make playoff pushes. So what a time to be alive. But yes, week 9, another crazy week 8. We said it last week. We are omitting the hits or misses episode again this week. There's just not enough time in our days to accomplish such feats on the 40. I will dangle out a few hits and misses that we threw out there from last week on the 40 Twitter handle and see what comes back. But we haven't done well in our bold predictions thus far, but they are bold. So just know at the end of this episode, we got to be bold. We got to be right.
Well,
2 out of the park today.
Well, today is going to be 2020 in a nutshell. We'll see as we sit here on a Tuesday morning. It should be pretty interesting this evening. You got cities already boarding up the windows. That's kind of how I feel like this fantasy season has been. We have all these projections. You got guys like Saquon that went down early, McCaffrey. It's just been a shit show. Any running back that starts for San Francisco goes straight to the IR after they play that one game. So, it's a temple of doom right now, all around. You got guys like Mike Davis that's coming out, and you got a bunch of steals late. So here we are, week 9, like you said. Either you're going to the playoffs or you're done for, especially in dynasty formats. Redraft, maybe you can play those waivers and get a lucky guy, but we'll give you the previews as much as we can this week. Texans and the Jags next on my list. Where are we at with Deshaun Watson now? Obviously, if you draft him, you're starting him, but do you like what he's doing with his weapons, or are you still needing to see more?
Listen, you have to like him without Bill O'Brien, and he had a murderer's row early on. We were talking about the 0-4 start that was just gifted to these Houston Texans by the NFL schedule makers to get Bill O'Brien out of there. But seems as if the offense is opening up for him. They are going to Jacksonville, TIAA Bank Field, where the Jaguars are only a 6.5 point underdog with a line of 51.5. So there's going to be some points to be scored. And I was actually surprised at the line, given the fact that Gardner Minshew is out. He has like a broken bone in his throwing hand, a finger in his throwing hand. So Jake Luton seems to be the starter for these Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday. It's not going to be pretty in Jacksonville because it's either him or Mike Glennon. And I would rather see the unproven 6th-round rookie than, long neck Mike Glennon get out there again and just tank an entire offense.
Yeah. On that side of the ball, I don't even know where to go. I mean, DJ Chark, we don't know what kind of relationship, he has with these backups, if at all. So then you got Keelan Cole, who's been hit and miss all year. I mean, it's kind of a mess in Jacksonville, personally, on the offensive side of the ball, fantasy-wise. Obviously, you got to start your waiver wire stud Robinson. But other than that, I'm staying away from that side of the ball. I love Will Fuller, still loving him on Houston. And like you said, they opened it up a little bit. So I think you can expect even bigger things this week.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, you have to hope that they commit to James Robinson. They should with the rookie under center because the Texans giving up 5.2 yards per carry on the season and 9 rushing touchdowns. They're second only to your Dallas Cowboys in total yards rushing allowed on the year. So you can get after these Houston Texans on the ground, and that is literally the only chance that Jacksonville has is playing ball control offense and feeding James Robinson 25 times in the game, maybe scheming some Laviska Shenault on some sweeps and end arounds and things of that nature, because I don't really see Jake Luton maximizing DJ Chark, Keelan Cole, and the like in this game. On the Houston side, Deshaun Watson must start QB. Will Fuller, you would assume. You can probably flex Brandon Cooks in a pinch. I wouldn't be going anywhere under that. How do you feel about David Johnson in this game? That's a pretty good line for a running back to get plus 6.5. You usually want the running backs on those type of lines.
Yeah, I guess you kind of have to pull the trigger. You kind of swayed me into it. I thought it was going to be a bigger year for David Johnson, just how they've kind of, they used Carlos Hyde a lot last year. I think more than David Johnson up to this point, if you look back last year. So I'd like to see more work, but if I'd say I'd flex him. That's as far as I go. I wouldn't slot him into my 1 or 2 spot. Definitely a flex.
Yeah, 4.6 yards per carry. They have given up 10 rushing touchdowns on the season, just over 1,000 rushing yards. So below average yards per carry and double digits in rushing touchdowns allowed. This should be a David Johnson week, as Houston would like to be ahead. I would say double-digit touchdowns or double-digit points, my apologies, by halftime of this game, and not really gunning after these Jaguars.
Nope, not at all. Let's go to a more interesting game. The Ravens coming off a tough loss to the Steelers. They got the Colts in Indianapolis this week. Why don't you lead off with this one?
This is an interesting game because right now there is no line that I found. And I don't do like John does. We're looking at the Vegas lines. This is just from my CBS Sports app, which just has kind of generic lines. But there is no line on this game, and I don't really know why. I thought I saw a blurb come onto my phone about Baltimore and some testing, some COVID testing, but what I read was a quick glance was that no one had tested positive. So kind of curious to this line. Both super stout teams versus the run. So while we do have some fantasy viable players, particular 2 rookies set to duel out potentially in this game, I wouldn't be expecting the world from them. My question to you is Jonathan Taylor injured or ineffective?
You're asking me, sorry, you kind of cut out, if he was injured or ineffective.
Injured or ineffective, yeah. What's the problem with Jonathan Taylor? Because I have seen enough cut-ups on Twitter showing him running up into the back of his offensive lineman to piss me off when there's these gaping holes, on the backside, seem like easy reads. But he's just, if it hasn't been through his receiving volume, which no one expected, he just has not shown me the rushing prowess that I think everyone had anticipated thus far.
Right. I think it's a kind of a vision thing, getting into the league early on, different blocking schemes up front, probably different than what he was used to at Wisconsin, and finding those holes and getting upfield. That's probably a big part of it, is just that transition to different kinds of schemes. Not that I know exactly what kind of, if Indy's a zone blocking scheme and what Wisconsin's got it on, but that's probably my biggest takeaway, is just some rookies, they can jump in, especially if they're a speed guy. But, if you're one of these bruising backs that, is a scheme back, he might have some problems. And that's what I think it is. I don't think it's his ability. I think it's more of a mental thing, and get on the same page as the line. And, but they definitely gave Jordan Wilkins the green light this week, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. 20 carries, 89 yards, and a touchdown. Had a nice reception, 24-yard reception on that as well. So he put over 100 all-purpose. Rather effective. While Jonathan Taylor, 11 carries, 22 yards, 2 yards per carry. He's sub 4 yards per carry on the season, 3.9 on the year, with only 3 rushing touchdowns for Jonathan Taylor. So we've been lucky that he's gotten the receiving production he has thus far, because he's been a disappointment. So is that Colts run blocking offense. They have not been nearly as good this year as they were in years past. I have yet to see a Quentin Nelson pancake block just take over Twitter in 2020, right, which you could pick one out per week in the 2019 season. So I just want them to get their shit together, but they ain't doing it against Baltimore. And Baltimore isn't going to let them run. So good luck to Phillip Rivers and T.Y. Hilton, Zach Pascal, Marcus Johnson, and those triumphant of tight ends of trying to get it done against Baltimore, because I think this is going to be a get right game for these Ravens. They have just not been able to put it together. And although Indy does have a pretty stout defense, I just don't think the Colts are going to be able to do anything on offense against the Ravens. They're not the Pittsburgh Steelers, so there's going to be a lot of opportunity for these Ravens players. Yeah,
Baltimore's looked quite off since the game. Was it Kansas City when they had that toe-to-toe matchup? Mm-hmm. They just haven't looked the same. Mark Andrews, kind of non-existent. And I'm still waiting for the emergence of my Des Bryant. Get off that practice squad and at least just step on the field. Not saying go add him and throw him in your lineups, but if he gets on there, it's something to monitor late in the season. When the games get a little colder, they'll roll him out there as the third tight end and see what happens. But other than that, it seems Mark Ingram's injured or maybe not injured. There's not a lot of clarity on what's going on with him right now. So I really think they're content on rolling with the Dobbins and Gus Edwards finish out the year. I feel like there's something deeper going on there in Baltimore.
I'll tell you what it is. Mark Ingram's old. I mean, it's just the reality of things. He was great for him last year until he wasn't when he got hurt down the stretch. And he's running back old for the NFL. And you're right. J.K. Dobbins shot out of a fucking cannon on Sunday. 15 for 113 against a stout Steelers run defense. And Gus Edwards wasn't far behind, 16 for 87 and a touchdown. They ran it super effectively in the game. Even Lamar Jackson, 16 for 65. I mean, 4.1 is not good for him, but it would be good for any traditional running back against the Steelers thus far this season. You would take 4.1 for him, but they had 265 yards rushing on the game. That's what the Ravens want to be. The Colts are another stout, as I stated, stout run defense, but I just don't think you're going to be able to stop this Ravens train. And hopefully Ingram isn't around again this week because I just want another week of the two better running backs in Baltimore, and it's J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb with my bold prediction for the week and say this will be Lamar Jackson's high pass attempts of the season. Reason being is I did watch quite a bit of that game against Pittsburgh, and goddamn did he take some shots. For his frame not being big, he's been pretty dang durable these first few years of his career. But some of these shots when he was trying to get in the end zone that he took just didn't look good. Obviously popped back up. But I think they might throw the ball a little bit after running it 48 times just between those three people you just said. So, maybe, keep some tread on the tire for later in the year when those games are cold and you can't throw the ball.
Yeah, I'm with you. And not that all offenses are created equal, but these Colts, 20-point win against the Lions last week as well. They limited this Lions rushing attack, if you can call it that, 13 carries for 29 yards. But Matt Stafford threw for 336 and 3 on them. So they can be had through the air. It's going to Lamar Jackson do it to him. And talking about speed to burn, after Kenny Golladay went down, Marvin Hall turned 7 targets into 4 catches for 113 yards in this game. Had a 73-yard catch, somehow not for a touchdown. But Marquise Hollywood Brown was also chirping after the game that he wants the ball more. He had 1 catch. I think he had 2 targets on the game. Luckily, it was a touchdown, but was not used against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this could be the squeaky wheel get right game for Hollywood Brown, but he's not above a low end wide receiver 2 for me.
Yeah, but I still like it. It's all those, we always got to compare those dudes to Deshaun Jackson, boomer bust. It's a flipping a coin. Which week you going to get? Speaking of Kenny Golladay, let's go to the Lions against the Vikings in the NFC North matchup walk. The Vikings just pounded the rock against Green Bay forcefully. I don't want to give it any nasty terms, but Jesus, took them out behind the shed and did something else to them. That's for sure. You got to roll out Dalvin Cook. I mean, we don't even need to analyze that. He looked healthy as could be coming back from the, hamstring or something, quad, who knows?
Adductor muscle, I think is the technical definition of things.
Yeah, he looked fast as ever, so no need to worry there. But I'm just curious if you have an update on Kenny Golladay, and if he does miss, is this just Marvin Jones and Hawkinson?
Wasn't able to find anything on Golladay, but assume he's not going to play because he was ruled out rather quick in last week's game. So without him, this offense struggles. Remember the beginning of the year where they couldn't get shit done. They didn't have Swift integrated. They didn't have Golladay. They didn't have an offense. So I'd be tempering expectations. Minnesota is only a 4-point favorite at home, but there's a line of 53. So they're thinking points are going to be scored here. It's one of the higher totals on the week. Obviously, Dalvin Cook is healthy. They rode him or he rode Green Bay to something last week, and it was impressive. So Detroit, middle of the pack against the run as well. The game script that these Vikings want, and it is literally maximize Dalvin Cook, minimize Kirk Cousins. Dalvin Cook had 30 carries. Kirk Cousins threw the ball 14 times in the game. Those are the ratios that Mike Zimmer wants to play with to perpetuity. So I think this game is going to set up very similar. It is feed Dalvin Cook as much as humanly possible, control the clock. That limits the upside of these pass catchers like Thielen and Jefferson, who only had 4 targets each in the game. Dalvin Cook was the leading receiver. Granted, it was on one screen touchdown that he made happen of 50 yards. But Thielen, 3 for 27, Jefferson, 3 for 26. I'd be concerned about these guys unless Minnesota is, getting points in a week. If they're an underdog, you want to fire those guys up, but they're not going to see the volume necessary to be trusted on a week in, week out basis. And there's another game where Minnesota should be pretty much in control at home.
Yep, agree with everything there. Not too much else extra to go into.
I would say Marvin Jones, they said even before the injury a week ago, where I think he had 80 yards 2 weeks back, that they needed to get him more involved in this offense. He had kind of become like a ghost in this offense. So 80 yards 2 weeks ago, 2 touchdowns last week. If there is no Kenny Golladay, you can start Marvin Jones as a wide receiver too in this game, because the Vikings can be thrown on, and that's what they're going to have to do to stay competitive. So while it might not be a pretty stat line for Stafford with Golladay, he still finds a way to compile at the end of the day. He did most of his damage last week. He did all of it without Kenny Golladay. He didn't have a stat. So I would be comfortable starting Marvin Jones.
Yeah. I think I mentioned him in week 2 this year, and he actually had a decent PPR game. So I'll do it again. If Golladay doesn't play, sneaky flex, Amendola there in the slot there. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's go ahead. Bears and Titans. Oh my God, what the hell is wrong with Nick Foles? Then you got dudes ripping out mouthpieces, giving him a right hook to the head. That was pretty entertaining. Looks like a suspension might be in store for our dude there, huh?
Yeah, Javon Williams caught 2 games for that. And I was told the backstory was that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the same Chauncey Gardner-Johnson that got punched by Michael Thomas in practice a few weeks back. So now there's a track record of Chauncey getting punched by wide receivers. So not trying to connect any dots, but maybe he's the common thread. Supposedly he spit on Javon Wims like a play or two earlier and took his mouthpiece.
Yeah, there is a video out about midway through the end of the first quarter. You can see them. They're yapping at each other. And the Saints guy rips off his mouthpiece, chucks it, and then for 3 quarters, the mouthpiece is still on the field. They're back in the same areas where it happened. I think it's the end of the third quarter when this all took place. So the guy's just foaming out the mouth for going into the locker room, coming out at halftime, and then runs straight there, rips his chain, if you want to call it, his mouthpiece off his helmet, and just starts going to town.
Was that first move? It was a very strange. It looked like Mortal Kombat-esque the way they approached the situation. Is he swiped out and he did a jump back into his stance and then attacked again with a punch. Keep punching guys in the helmet. I'm just not going to tell grown men what stupid actually is, but you're not going to hurt the guy, but you probably are going to break your hand at the end of the day. So it's really not understanding. I'd rather kick him. If you're going to do something, you know what I mean?
Cleat him in the chin. In the chin.
Do something different. But let's get to this game.
Yeah, let's get some fantasy advice.
5.5-point favorites with a line of 46.5. So a lower total. Tennessee comfortably favored at home, and they should be. Chicago stinks. I mean, their defense held up the best they could this last week, but their offense it can't go punch for punch with just about anybody. And I would have thought the Saints would have won comfortably last week, but it was in Chicago, so they get a little bit of their home cooking. It's, the Saints don't really play well outside. So it was a very good game to watch as a football fan, but it was all the Chicago defense. Well, they're just going to get pounded this entire game with Derrick Henry. I mean, it's just – and Tennessee is a decent defense, all things being considered. I mean, they're not as stout as the Saints are against the run, but they're better against the pass at the end of the day. So maybe David Montgomery can get off a little bit, but this is just one. I just see a comfortable Titans win. You're going to start Derrick Henry every week. Not telling you anything you don't know. Do you start A.J. Brown at this point in time? Do you start Jonnu Smith? They've been – I mean, I know A.J. Brown had a touchdown, but they've been a little bit disappointing. While out of nowhere, Corey Davis has been the one –
Silent
the mail. He's
been
toting the mail these last couple of weeks. For the Titans, but this is a good get-right game for Tennessee after they were embarrassed against the Bengals last week. So I got to think they put it together, but I wouldn't have the loftiest of expectations in the passing game. to be totally honest with you. Because the Bears are decent. Bears can contain them a little bit.
Yeah, I think the Titans want to grind it out at home, so expect 23 to 26 touches, just rush attempts from Henry. And then, like you said, Corey Davis is eating because once A.J. Brown got healthy and blew up on his first game back, you've seen the too high coverage over the top. Corey Davis is running the dig routes in the middle, getting his 6 for 84 and a touchdown. I'll take that, So that's a good point you brought up there, Walk. Jonnu Smith, I'm getting a little not pissed, but I'm definitely worried. Maybe this injury is a little more lingering than we thought. Yeah, he's on the field, but maybe that's the reason why is to, take away attention from other guys. And because we know when John is 100% healthy, he's one of the best tight ends in the league. I'll go say that right now. I mean, the physique, if physique was a thing, look at old DK Metcalf. Now he's all of a sudden the best wide receiver in the league. So,
not news to us.
No. So I definitely I'm going to go on a limb and say let's see the old Jonnu this week, and maybe he gets 2 touchdowns, but not as much yardage. So 2 touchdown week from Jonnu.
Oh wow, you're being aggressive. I like that.
It's one of those days. So,
okay, well let's look back in these Saints. Didn't they just give up a touchdown? Yeah, 5 for 51 and a touchdown to Jared Cook. I don't think the Saints or the Bears are that stout against the tight end. So yeah, let's get it. Let's get Jonnu back in our good graces. Put up a Jared Cook-esque line. Give me 50 for 51 and a touchdown, Jonnu. But yeah, I wouldn't feel too comfortable with anything Chicago outside of because you have to David Montgomery and because you should Allen Robinson. I love Darnell Mooney, but there's still that missed deep connection. A better quarterback, and Darnell Mooney, I'm not going to say it's a household name, but is being talked about more than he is right now because he has cooked countless D-backs in games that I've watched, and Foles has missed him significantly at this point. I mean, we could be talking 3 or 4 50-plus yard TDs for Darnell Mooney already on this season alone. Imagine that stat line. But he was pretty decent against the Saints. I'm pretty sure he was the yardage leader for them. No, he was not. He had 69 because Allen Robinson came on late, but he finally did get in the end zone. So maybe a little Darnell Mooney if you're desperate.
Yep. Last point on that game, and then we'll move on, is Matt Nagy needs to start calling plays like he does in the last 3 minutes of the game, just for the whole game. I don't understand why Allen Robinson, you have to be pissed for 3.5 quarters of his usage, and then, here we go, 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Oh, there he goes. Oh, he has 70 yards and a touchdown all of a sudden. So, hey, Matt Nagy, do your fucking job. All right, here we go.
Yep, still tied for second on the team in targets. Out of nowhere, Anthony Miller leads him in targets on the week. So there was still a very limited Allen Robinson until the end, as you stated. So,
yep. Panthers-Chiefs, intriguing matchup. Chiefs, after their win against Buffalo a couple weeks back, look like they're back to normal after they lost. I like Mecole Hardman. Once Sammy Watkins went down, my son has Mecole Hardman. He was going to drop him, and I told him, no, man, Sammy's gone. He'll kind of go in there as a wide receiver too there. Obviously, they're explosive little plays. One was a shovel pass that he took in the end zone. But I think Mahomes is distributing the ball quite evenly this season than what we've seen in years past.
Listen, he at least did against the Jets. I mean, 416 yards and 5 touchdowns. I mean, this was the Mahomes that you drafted early to just slather points all over your opponent. They're only a 10.5-point favorite, which no disrespect to Carolina, but Carolina is not in Kansas City's class. So I'm pretty comfortable laying that 10.5 in the game with a 52.5-point total. Christian McCaffrey, by all accounts, should be back this week, which will change the complexion of this Carolina offense. I said it last week with John. I'm going to say it this week again. I'm super interested to see how much Mike Davis is or is not involved in this offense going forward, because I don't believe you can just put that back on the bench. McCaffrey should not be 100% snap running back anymore. I mean, you have to give 25% of the work to Mike Davis to try and, protect your asset a little bit too. And that then caps the CMC ceiling because he's not seeing 10, 15 targets every single week.
I'm kind of on the other side of the fence, but what I can say I will see is Mike Davis going into the Mike Tolbert role, anything inside the 5-yard line, there goes Mike Davis. So, if you're pretty deep at running back, I'd still continue to roll him out. just because McCaffrey's back, don't get scared. I think, they're going to try to keep some tread on the tire. Not that they are going too deep this year, the Panthers in the postseason, but, looking forward to the next couple of years and McCaffrey, them paying him. I think the smart move would be to use Mike Davis like Mike Tolbert,
And the interesting part is the Chiefs they give up yards. They get running. They allow you to run. They don't allow you to throw it on them because they know they're going to just keep putting points on you. So their defense is predicated around limiting the passing offense. So they'll just let you try and run and get first downs while Mahomes is putting touchdowns on the board every other time. So only 7 touchdowns allowed on the season, but a lot of yards. So there could be rushing yards aplenty to be had by these Carolina backs. On the Carolina side, they've allowed tied for NFL high, 12 rushing TDs on the year. So I'm interested to see what another week of Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell looks like, because it wasn't what anyone would expect in a 35-9 win by Kansas City against the Jets a week ago, where Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 6 rushes for 21 yards and Le'Veon Bell had 6 for 7 yards. That's not what you're expecting, a blowout win against a subpar offense or subpar defense in the Jets.
I'm trying to go back in history and think of a running back that, is very productive, looks good on the field, looks good on tape, looks good when you're watching the game, that can't get in the end zone. And I'm trying to remember who it is, but it's definitely Helaire right now.
I was going to say his name is Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
There was another guy I'm trying to recall that just could never get in the end zone. Some kind of jinx there. I think it was Aaron Jones for a while in his first year for a little bit, So hopefully brighter days are ahead for Helaire. But I think he might be one of those guys that just have this curse. You can't cross that goal line.
Yeah. Before we get off of this, was Curtis Samuel a 1-week aberration on that Thursday night game against the Falcons, or is he going to be a part of this offensive game plan going forward, including against the Chiefs?
So 3 weeks ago when I was with you guys, I said, man, he's been begging for the ball too. I think it's 2 weeks in a row. I could be wrong with a rushing touchdown out of the running back position. Obviously, it's not a fluke if it's 2 weeks in a row. I think they're going to find more creative ways to get him the ball. And as much as I've been down on DJ Moore, that Thursday night game, when you only go to him and towards the end of the game and he just fucking explodes with the ball in his hands, like, all right, man, I get it. You're a new coach in the NFL. Do your job, get your guys the ball. DJ Moore put a statement out there, like, hey, this is what happens when I get the ball. So
great players make great plays.
Right. And it's not freaking rocket science. Do a bubble screen at the beginning of the game. Get the ball in his hands early and often, and then let the game unfold itself. Don't be like, oh, they're bracketing him, so we'll stay away from there. You got to be more creative as an offensive play caller, and hopefully this guy is, because you've got weapons and Samuel getting McCaffrey back and DJ Moore. I'd like to see the tight end involved a little more, but that looks like it's just not going to happen. The guy's on the field 100% of the time and getting nothing, so –
Yep, Ian Thomas is not going to be a thing, seems like, this year or for the foreseeable future, because it's just not a product of this offense, especially with all the pass catchers that they have. My thought is that with McCaffrey back, does Curtis Samuel see that backfield work as a true running back? He might get some jet sweeps or I just don't, maybe one, and so you better hope. But it's not going to be in the red zone. That's going to be CMC or Mike Davis. So
agreed.
Limit expectations on Curtis Samuel, but I think he's a guy in a pinch, could be a flex play for you because, again, Carolina is going to get off the bus chasing points in Kansas City. So go find some pass catchers. And, yes, give DJ Moore the ball more than 6 times in a game that you are losing. Thank you, Teddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say that in full confidence, roll out DJ Moore this week. I have not said that all year. This will be the week I say it. So let's go to the Seahawks against the Bills, where DK Metcalf will be bench pressing Tre'Davious White down the field. Right, Walk?
He's going to do whatever the fuck he wants. That's what it comes down to. Seattle traveling to Buffalo for a 1:00 game. Not the biggest fans, but I have heard numerous times that Seattle loves playing 1:00 East football games because everyone kind of underestimates them for the time zone change. Buffalo is a 2.5-point underdog at home with a 54-point total. So they're not getting any love, and nor should they. Buffalo has not played well these last few weeks. Josh Allen has not played well these last few weeks. Let's see what this Buffalo Bills offense can do, and they're trying to keep pace with this obviously unstoppable Seattle Seahawks passing attack. Who's it going to be this week? Twitter says they alternate every week. big week from DK means the next week it's a big week from Lockett. Big week from Lockett, next week DK. That was easy for the last 3 weeks when that proved true, as they were both just exploding individually. But I don't think Tre'Davious White's going to shadow anyone. I just think he plays a side, if I'm not mistaken. So you can free up who you want in this offense. Either way, you start both of these guys. So it's not the point, but it's who has the bigger week this week? Is it DK or is it Lockett?
I'm going DK. Just because of size matchups.
He's an absolute freak in nature. I mean, imagine if this dude were truly on an offense where he was getting 10-plus targets a game. That's just not what Seattle needs to do because Russ can spread it around and they have a nice other option in Tyler Lockett. But imagine 160-plus target DK Metcalf in the NFL.
Yeah, slot him into Pittsburgh or something, take out Juju. Holy hell. I mean, there's not too many cornerbacks or safeties in the league. Jamal Adams plays for the Seahawks, so he doesn't have to worry about him. That want to see DK Metcalf with the ball in his hands running full speed. It's just not a pretty sight if you're on the other end of that spectrum. So,
it's a damn pretty sight as a fantasy owner.
It's like a Clydesdale running down through the field. I mean, it's just not fair. So
it looks like he is almost like satirically running. Like he runs so fast with like high arms and legs, like in everything he does. It looks like he's not being serious.
Like form running. Yeah.
Like he's exaggerated.
Exaggerated.
Everything he does is exaggerated, but you're right. That dude coming full steam at you, it's get out of the way. It's like Derrick Henry in the open field, right? It's just business decisions.
Yes, business decisions. Real quick before we move on, I want to get your take on the Seattle backfield, though.
The Seattle backfield, it was DJ Dallas. I mean, I was on Twitter, and most people didn't agree with me that, if Chris Carson's out, we already knew that Carlos Hyde was ruled out, that it was going to be DJ Dallas. And DJ Dallas had a top 5 game. He wasn't too effective running the ball, but the 49ers are very stout against the run. But he caught all 5 of his targets and, 2 total touchdowns. I don't know what Carson's status is this week, but if he's out again, you can go right back to the well with DJ Dallas because it's obvious they trust him. And the Bills are a team that you can run against at the end of the day. 4.7 yards per carry, already over 1,000 yards allowed on the season, and 11 rushing touchdowns. So they're not this shut down rushing defense. So I got to think Seattle's going to try and run on them a little bit, especially outdoors at Bills Stadium. So it could be DJ Dallas back-to-back weeks. If Chris Carson is back, then you obviously roll with him. But I'm feeling comfortable whoever that starting running back is with Seattle being an RB2 at the worst.
Yeah. All right.
On the Buffalo side, are you going anyone beyond Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs? Are you feeling comfortable with Smokey Brown? What about Cole Beasley? Because Seattle gets thrown on by everyone. I mean, you got to find other options to get involved because yards are going to be had by this Bills air attack.
Big week from Diggs. Beasley will get his 6 for 56. So that'll be, 11, 12 points. You can flex that out. John Brown, I don't know what's going on. I'm not rolling him out. Hopefully you have him in a best ball because he does have that potential to go deep a couple times against the Seattle secondary. The running back position for Buffalo, although it seems to be not an equal split, but an equal split, if that makes any sense. It's pretty frustrating with Zach Moss and Singletary. Singletary did get 16 for 84 last week. So I guess that's flex worthy, hoping that he gets in the end zone, but Seattle you don't really run on them that often. So,
and you don't run them because you throw on them, but their counting stats just under 4 yards a carry allowed for the Seahawks defense. So they have allowed 9 rushing touchdowns on the year. And you're right. Moss and Singletary split carries evenly against the Patriots, but Moss got the carries where they counted and ended up getting 2 touchdowns on the week. So I would rather be starting Zach Moss over Devin Singletary, but Devin Singletary brings a little bit more, I think, as a pass catcher for them, even though I think Zach Moss is a very comparable pass catcher, but neither one of them are above a low end running back 2 or flex. You need them to get the
right
down.
All right, let's go to Atlanta, where these guys are a whole new team without Mr. Quinn at the helm. So we got the Falcons against the Broncos. The Broncos scored a second touchdown against them Chargers last week. Drew Lock doing his little pew-pew celebration with his little guns. Quite entertaining.
He is entertaining. I'll give him that. But this is more an indictment on the LA Chargers. All right, we'll talk about that later in their game. But they just, they don't know how to close out games. Yeah, they have had so many games they should have won thus far in the year that they just hand over late, and this was just the latest string. But Atlanta is a 4-point favorite at home with a 50-point total. So, again, points to be had, not a high total. I just don't know why Atlanta deserves to be a 4-point favorite against anyone. I know they're winning, but they're still doing it ugly, and that game on last Thursday was ugly. Do you know anything more about Calvin Ridley? I did a quick search, and there was nothing yet. And I don't know if practice reports had come out as we record on Tuesday morning, but
right. Yeah, I was going to say, I think the real ones don't really come out until Thursday. That's when they really ramp it up. Today will be kind of a easy walkthrough day, and then tomorrow will be a pad session. So Wednesday, Thursday, we'll get a lot more news on that. So it's kind of hard to speculate on it. But if he doesn't go, another big Julio game, obviously, hopefully he gets in the end zone. Julio's one of those guys that's got the touchdown disease as well. Can get all these yards, but can't get in the end zone that I was alluding to earlier. But
oh, yeah. Hey, listen, what's his name? Ian Hartitz on Christ, where is he at now? I don't even know. Where did he go? Pro Football Focus? There it is. Said that now 100 yards without a touchdown should be called a Julio because he actually has the record for career 100-yard games without a touchdown. And we've been talking about this for the entirety of the Fantasy 40. He doesn't score touchdowns. It's not an anomaly with him. He'll get them in bunches, like his 2-touchdown week 2 weeks ago, but he'll run a string of like a month where he could have 150 yards and somehow not find the end zone in a week. But I don't see who on Denver is going to stop Julio. We were talking about earlier who stops DK Metcalf. Well, the receiver before DK was Julio Jones, this big size speed freak that could just run past, and he's bigger than all these D-backs. I'm going to call for another big game from Quintorris Jones and say he does score against Denver. So 100 and a touchdown from Julio, whether Calvin Ridley plays or not. Do you start Todd Gurley in this game?
Why not with the depleted running back corps in the NFL? There could be worse options out there. You could be on the fence with Mike Davis and have Mike Davis and Todd Gurley because you went wide receiver heavy early on in your drafts. I would still lean towards Gurley. There's just not much else behind him. I know Brian Hill's getting a little bit of work. Ito Smith was out again. So, yeah, I mean, it's there.
Brian Hill looks so much better in his limited touches. It's so, like night and day better. It looked like Gurley didn't even want to be playing football, but he still found the end zone for a touchdown to save people's day. The Broncos are true middle of the pack. 4.5 yards allowed, only 5 rushing touchdowns on the season. Gurley literally requires a rushing touchdown to give you 10 fantasy points because he is not involved in the passing game at all. I'm tempering expectations on Gurley in this one. I think this is where the wheels really start coming off on the Gurley train that hopefully if you had him and were deep enough, you sold him after these last few attempts because I'm going to say Gurley disappoints, does not get in the end zone here and gets you sub 8 fantasy points in PPR.
Ooh, here's a little gem for you. If you start kickers in your league, you got to go with Young Wei Koo. Dude is murdering it. I've had him all year. Holy, he's scoring more than Keenan Allen in some weeks. So if you do start,
what he cannot do is kick extra points, though. It's crazy.
Right.
He's 19 to 20 on field goals, but he misses extra points like they're 50-yarders at the end of the day. But he's going to get you points because they bogged down in the red zone, which points to the Julio issue as well. As I think Julio had like 4 incomplete passes last week go his way. They were all in the red zone. There's just something their entire career that Matt Ryan and Julio Jones can't get on the same page in the red zone, which leads to Young Ho Koo short field goals. So I'm with you. Kicker 1, Young Ho Koo on the week.
I love it. Let's go to the AFC West matchup. The Raiders against the Chargers. One in Oakland, one used to be San Diego, now LA, now Vegas. What you got going on here?
Yeah, we got LA Chargers at home, SoFi Stadium, 1.5-point favorites. So they don't even get the nominal 3. So, Vegas likes Vegas better. 53-point total. Again, one of the higher lines on the week. So points are going to be scored here, and you would have to expect it because we're talking about Justin Herbert-led Chargers who I don't know at what point they're going to realize that they can't protect a lead. So they literally need to score until the final bell every single week, which should lead to bigger Justin Herbert games. And he was 278, 3-2 in the loss of the Broncos last week. So Vegas's pass defense isn't isn't going to scare anyone off of Justin Hebert. He is certainly a must-start option, definitely a QB1. In the running game, Justin Jackson looked a lot better. Joshua Kelly isn't a thing anymore. Troy Maine-Pope, don't get your hopes up on him, and I think he got hurt at the end. But it was nice to see Mike Williams get off with Keenan Allen at the end of the day. Still not a touchdown from Hunter Henry. I just don't understand how he has not scored at this point in time. It's a statistical anomaly, and I'm going to say Hunter Henry finally gets into the end zone this week against the Las Vegas Raiders. On the Vegas side of the house, who even knows? I mean, you can't evaluate them on the game that just happened in Cleveland. It was super high winds, super ineffective, everything on both sides of the ball. No one can run, no one can pass. So better days are going to be ahead when they get into that beautiful new eyesore, SoFi Stadium, and should unlock their pass offense a little bit. We should be able to get Nelson Aguilar back into like a flexi position. I'm going to let you talk about Henry Ruggs. Darren Waller obviously is a must start. And Josh Jacobs was one of the bright spots of last week's game where he got the ball 31 times and was able to put 128 yards on his back in trying to keep that team competitive. They want to run him, and I got to think they're going to go right back to a heavy Josh Jacobs load in this game.
No, I get what you're saying. I just don't know if he's hit a wall or what's going on. Jacobs, just the explosiveness, that we saw early on, this year, but last year, a lot more explosive. He's got tired legs. They're definitely running him quite a bit, and he just doesn't look the same. Not saying he's not effective. He's just not as effective as he once was. And I think just the usage is starting to take its toll on the guy because he wasn't used heavily at Alabama.
Yeah, he's already had 147 carries on the season through 6 weeks. So they had their bye already. So we're not even at the midpoint. So he's trending as a plus 300 carry back easily on the year, barring injury. And that doesn't lead to long, productive careers. And you're right, he just didn't have that workload in college. So it's a slight bit of a concern, but doesn't seem to be shying Gruden away from giving him all he can handle week in and week out.
No, not at all. But Henry Ruggs, kind of like what we alluded to with Hollywood, just one of those guys, if they just happen to see him in their progression, they're usually open wide down the field. It's just whether they pull the trigger and throw it down there. He's going to have the
big games. I mean, like he did against Kansas City, where they hit on that, where they know they have to push the ball down the field, and they almost force Carr to be his first read is go deep to short, which I think is the opposite of how Carr's brain works. I think he works short to deep. So who knows when the next Henry Ruggs blow up spot will happen, but it could be here. Ideal game conditions, high point total.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised to see Ruggs pop off.
No, I wouldn't be surprised either. It's just, Derek Carr is honestly having a quiet, what do we want to call that? I'd say pretty damn good season so far, if you look at number-wise. So great QB2 in flex situations. But the Raiders as a whole, John Gruden's one of those game plan type coaches, right? He comes in with this game plan and he doesn't go far from it when he's in the in the mix during the game. He's not going to do too many adjustments offensively at halftime. So what you see early on is probably what you're going to get for the remainder of the game. So
this is true. Yeah, he is not one to change his mind, but Chargers are middle of the pack against the pass. Just checked, giving up 10.5 per completion. I think 14 touchdowns on the season. So you can throw on them. So hopefully we get a Henry Ruggs. But I still think we can go back to Nelson Aguilar. He's kind of been reliable outside of this Browns anomaly game for Derek Carr.
Yep, he's a sneaky little play, isn't he? Mr. Nelson Aguilar couldn't catch in Philly, but he's doing all right down there in Vegas. So we'll see how it keeps going, man. Because I can't remember what the Eagles spent on him for a draft pick, but
first rounder. That was a Chip Kelly pick. He watched him beat up on him at SC and just said, "I have to have this receiver." So
didn't work out there in Philly, but yep. Let's go to a young quarterback matchup. We have the Tua-led Dolphins going against Kyler Murray coming off a bye week. They probably address some things offensively because they keep missing these deep Andy Isabella shots that they take probably 5 times a game. But now Christian Kirk, the last 2 games I saw in half-point PPR, I think he had like 19 and 23. So Isabella's probably put back on the shelf now that Kirk's healthy. And, I mean, it's an explosive offense. You don't know where it's going to come from. But my biggest thing is, not that I like to see people hurt, but goddamn, it is time for Chase Edmonds. So I'm pretty excited about that. He is a must-start for me in every kind of format. What about you?
No, 100%. And I heard that Kenyon Drake's injury isn't as bad as it had appeared when he was writhing in pain coming off the field. And they do have a bye week, but I do not expect Kenyon Drake to play this week. Dolphins giving up just under 5 yards per carry, 9 rushing touchdowns on the year. The Cardinals aren't much better, 4.7 per carry, but they've only given up 4 rushing touchdowns. So neither of these are stopping the run too well. I agree. Chase Edmonds is 100% a must-start. He's just another in this line of Mike Davis, Boston Scott, Gio Bernard type guys that, if given the chance, and I'm not even going to say albeit in limited doses, because Mike Davis was largely productive the entire time he was the starter in Carolina. Chase Edmonds is next man up, and he could render Kenyon Drake irrelevant, because he, all season, you've been saying it this entire time, just a better back. I mean, far more explosive, involved in the passing game. Kenyon Drake, they just didn't even want to throw him the ball ever. It was literally, he was like a 2-down back, ran it between the tackles, just looked ineffective. And once Chase Edmonds gets in there, just electric. So super excited to see what Mr. Edmonds is going to do. And I agree with you. Christian Kirk's been getting more involved, which just relegates everyone not named DeAndre Hopkins in that passing attack. So you can't start an Andy Isabella. You're not going to start anyone else on this team other than obviously Kyler Murray. On the Miami side of the house, Tua pulled out a big win, but really didn't do shit in the game.
Man. So talk about a high school offense, bro. Like, I wonder what his air yards were. Like
probably
4?
Negative.
Yeah.
Somehow they were negative because, he was not tasked with doing much. In a game where Jared Goff threw the ball 61 times against the Miami Dolphins, Tua threw it 22 total times, 93 yards and a touchdown. Forced one in there to Devontae Parker from a 3 yards out. But Arizona's going to make them score more points and hopefully not turn the ball over the way that the Jared Goff-led Rams did. So excited to see what Tua is going to do in his second NFL start at State Farm Stadium. There is no line on this game either, which, again, I'm not really sure why there's no line. There's no one of consequence that's not playing in this game. But who are you and aren't you starting on the Miami side of the house? Is Gaskins a must-start at this point in time? What receivers?
Nobody. Reason being is Miami needs to locate where Budda Baker's going to be. I think they're going to let that guy loose to chase Tua down, and he's going to have happy feet the whole game. So it's going to be a little off target. I say you stack the box against a young guy like that and let him beat you, which this early on, and from what I saw last week, I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah, someone's going to score a touchdown. Maybe it's garbage time, but honestly, I think Cardinals coming out of this bye week are going to have something for the Dolphins, and they're not going to be able to handle it, not only offensively, but on the defensive side of the ball as well. So I'm staying away from Miami altogether.
Yeah, see, I think you have to start Gaskins at this point, but don't disagree with it. Just because he's involved in the passing game as well. And while he wasn't too productive on the ground, the Rams are pretty stout against the run. He still did see 18 of the team's 25 carries and was their leading target getter from Tua. So that role in the offense doesn't seem to have changed with Ryan Fitzpatrick getting out of there. So I'm still comfortable starting Myles Gaskins as an RB2. But, yeah, the rest of those guys – not too much. I mean, who is Patrick Peterson going to be on? It's probably going to be on Devontae Parker. So maybe this is a Preston Williams game, but I ain't starting him and trusting it. And you can't start Mike Gesicki as a tight end. So you're right. There's just so limited from a Dolphins team that should be optimistic after a relatively easy win the week before against the LA Rams.
Right. I agree with you there. I didn't know Gaskin was getting that much usage. So yeah, I mean, that's worthy of a start. Is he going to perform? To be determined. All right, let's move on to the Steelers and the Cowboys. What a shit show my Cowboys have been all year. We kind of talked about the Kenyon Drake, Chase Edmonds situation. I don't know, Walk, if you caught in many of the games. I know you probably watched last week's, but I know you're not going to disagree with me here. The difference between when Zeke comes off the field, Tony Pollard goes in is leaps and bounds, right? Zeke lumbers through the hole. Yeah, if you want 3.5, 4 yards here and there. But when Tony Pollard gets the ball and running the same exact play, the dude's 7 yards down the field before he even gets touched. Just zooms through the hole, makes a cut, and goes. He's not dancing. I think this is something that Dallas needs to really look at. And me being a huge Zeke guy, it's just not there, man. I don't know what's in his head. Maybe too much partying, doing the Molly or whatever he was doing in Vegas a couple years back. It's fried his brain, but he is just not the same guy. And until I see different, I think it should be at least an even split from here on out.
I'm with you. I mean, I'd say Pollard shot out of a cannon. You know, I've been on Tony Pollard since he was draft eligible. I didn't like that he went to Dallas. One, because I knew he was going to be blocked by Zeke, and two, it was Dallas. So it limits my excitement about a player when he goes to my bitter rivals. But yeah, Pollard just looked great. I mean, and Elliott, just he's lumbering, just kind of plodding, just going through the motions. And could it be as simple as paid versus hungry? I mean, is that where we're at? I mean, Zeke's not getting another big contract. That's it. He got the second contract. He ain't getting to a third. He'll be the 1 year or 2 year type guy after this. So maybe he's just not as hungry as he used to be. Couple that with the fact that this Dallas season has gone in the toilet. So I think everyone's motivations can be questioned at a certain point in time. Tony Pollard, is getting an opportunity here to impress, and he is making the most of it. I am a huge Tony Pollard fan, and hopefully this offense gets a little bit more on track when Andy Dalton returns, which should be this week. They don't return to a plus matchup when they have to host these Pittsburgh Steelers that are going to eliminate the run for Dallas by and large. I mean, this isn't the Ravens rushing attack coming to town in the Cowboys. They have a patchwork offensive line. Like you said, Zeke is not Dobbins or Gus Edwards hitting that hole right now. So temper expectations. It's the unfortunate. You have to start Zeke if you drafted him and he's on your team.
Yep.
You just have to, and you hope for the touchdown. But Pittsburgh's going to make life hell for Zeke and Andy Dalton, and it's going to impact those pass catchers as well. I'm not comfortable trusting literally any of them.
Me neither.
To be honest with you.
I think the play, like I said, the play here with Dallas is you start Tony Pollard in one of your flex spots, and obviously you're stuck. You drafted Amari Cooper, you drafted Michael Gallup, drafted CeeDee Lamb. It's just not happening without Dak. Honestly, yeah, Andy Dalton is quite a bit better than DiNucci. Oh my God, I don't even want to talk about that game. I wouldn't expect all these double reverse attempted wide receiver passes this week. I think they get back to what they do is turning the ball over and hoping for a big play here and there. But Dallas is just a mess. Steelers side of the ball, they kind of struggled last week throwing the ball. A little. I don't want to say I'm scared, but overall, Ben didn't look good. I don't know if the shoulder surgery is starting to come into play with the weather changing out there and his old bones. But, James Conner wasn't too effective either. So it wasn't pretty for the Steelers.
No, I mean, Lamar Jackson lost the game for the Ravens. The Steelers didn't go out there and win the game. I mean, he had 4 turnovers just like my boy Carson Wentz did, except they were playing against a much better team that can make you pay for those turnovers, and that's why the Steelers won. I agree with you. Big Ben sub 200 yards passing, did have 2 passing touchdowns, but everything under the change, everything's short. So if these guys aren't making plays after the catch, it limits Big Ben's upside. So while you can throw all over Dallas, everyone except Carson Wentz, apparently, I wouldn't be to the moon with this game. I do think this would be a decent spot for James Conner to get 100 and a touchdown, even 102 touchdowns, because they're going to be able to move the ball and get in scoring position quite often against these Dallas Cowboys. So definitely start him. I think Ebron is finding his connection with Big Ben as well. So he's going to be on the tight end 1 radar, low end tight end 1 for me until further notice. So definitely feel comfortable starting him. I did like that Juju was the target leader in kind of a big division game. Hopefully he's getting a little healthier and can get the ball more, because he has been a thorough disappointment. Claypool did get in the end zone, but didn't get the volume. And Deontay Johnson, God, that guy's a roller coaster every single week as far as his production is concerned, and his ability to get injured. I mean, he has a high ability to get injured week in and week out. So temper expectations on Deontay Johnson as well, even though, again, you can throw on Dallas.
Yeah, just to add before we move on to Sunday night game is I think if you have Eric Ebron in redraft, he's right where you want him going into these more important games as you're trying to solidify your playoff spot. Like Walker said, he's finding his connection early on. It was 2 and a touchdown, 4 and Ben seems to be keyed on him at least on his number 2 progression most of the time. So once they get the running game going a little more, which I expect against Dallas, Dallas is known to give up against the tight ends because Jalen Smith runs around with his head cut off. You could expect a decent game from Eric Ebron. So, roll him out there. He's available in quite a bit of leagues, especially on ESPN. I was looking. I'm trying to remember. He's still out there in quite a few. So I don't know what you're doing in that league if you don't have him scooped up, but definitely feel comfortable rolling him out because Kittle's gone. And if that was your number 1 guy, then that makes sense. Other than that, man, roll the dice on Ebron for the rest of the year because I know I am. But
I'm with you. And before we get to that Sunday night, you have omitted one early game that I can totally understand why you have. But these New York Giants, fresh off a Monday Night Football loss to Tampa Bay, head to the Washington football team. Well,
yeah, I didn't want to talk about that.
Yeah, they're a 3-point favorite, point total of 41. So low total, not a lot of fantasy points to be had in this game. We can keep it brief here, but is Terry McLaurin going to get James Bradbury'd?
I don't think
he should.
So. I think talent. He should.
He should.
I think talent's there. Between him and Gibson, that's all they got, right? What else are they supposed to do?
Exactly. And, while Evans did put 5 for 55 and a touchdown on Bradbury, it was tough to come by. So I can't see how Bradbury isn't just glued to Terry McLaurin all game. And, is it another Logan Thomas game? He should be able to do a little bit of damage. We were talking about tight ends a minute ago. He's another, viable dart throw as far as Washington is concerned. Kyle Allen has moved the ball and fed his limited amount of viable fantasy targets. So I wouldn't be too concerned about Logan Thomas. You mentioned Antonio Gibson. Hopefully we get another week after he exploded going into their bye. But the Giants, as you saw, they're pretty good against the run, have been all season. The Buccaneers were only able to turn out 3.4 yards per carry against them, no rushing touchdowns. So hopefully they commit to Gibson, but it seems like most of his damage would have to come as a pass catcher because the Giants are pretty stout against run. On the Giants side, good luck. Danny Dimes can't get on the same page as Slayton right now. He's throwing him inside when Slayton's going outside. He's throwing him outside when Slayton's going breaking inside. Like those guys need to sit in a film room and hash this shit out because there was some plays to be made on Monday Night Football where they just missed each other. Outside of that,
Shepard's wide open down the field, 60-something yard touchdown, overthrown him. I mean, yeah, not good. Not good at all.
Not good, Bob. So, yeah, don't get away from the Giants. I mean, I still think Gallman is the running back to own, even if, what's his name, Devontae Freeman's back. I was thoroughly unaware that Alfred Morris was on the Giants practice squad to get caught up. I saw Morris, and I'm like, holy fuck, is that Alfred Morris running the ball right now? 31-year-old, just mothballed Alfred Morris getting junk carries on Monday Night Football.
I bet you we said it the same exact play because I was cooking some steak in the kitchen and had the game going in the background and I heard, what? And I turned around and sure enough, there he was. I'm like, okay, I guess he just stays in the NFC East. Whoever doesn't want him, he just moves on to the next. So next would be Philly. He completes his tour. But yeah, super interesting. I did not know that either. But finally, we got a pretty good Sunday night game. We got the NFC South matchup. We already had it once. The Saints against the Buccaneers at home. Tom Brady, it's not that I'm saying he's struggling because, man, he had one hell of an October. But, you could tell that he's just not 100% on the same page as like he was in New England, right? He wouldn't even have to guess. He'd throw it there. There's Edelman. Throw it there. There's James White, Other than that, he's looking to force the ball to Mike Evans right now without Godwin, out there. And I don't know. Do you have any idea when Antonio gets to play, or is he just still waiting to hear from the commissioner?
He gets to play this week.
Does he? Okay. Well, my next question then, Walk, for the
hold on. Maybe I'm wrong because I don't know if bye week. Yeah, no, he does because he wasn't on a team. He was suspended for 8 weeks, so it's 8 weeks of the NFL season. So yes, he can play this week since it's week 9 of the NFL season.
Next question: if you rostered Antonio Brown in redraft, took him with your last pick, are you rolling him out this week?
100%. If he's active, which you got to assume he's going to be, yeah, I'm going there. I mean, Brady instrumental in bringing him there is what I've heard. So he's going to give him the ball. I mean, Antonio Brown wasn't the only game in town when he was with the Patriots early, and he just was peppered in his limited amount of targets, in his limited amount of snaps for that one shining game against the Dolphins. Yeah, he's going to get 6 to 8 targets from Brady. He's going to get high value targets. He's opposite a Mike Evans and the like, so he just can't command alpha coverage like he used to. I think Antonio Brown could get off the bus and put 100 and a touchdown on the Saints passing defense on Sunday Night Football. And I don't expect Chris Godwin to play. Fractured finger. I don't think that a pass catcher misses 1 week with a fractured finger. I got to think this is a multi-week injury for Godwin. So without him, Antonio Brown steps right into 2 wide sets with Mike Evans opposite him and Gronk, roaming around inside. Points are going to be had throwing the ball. Brady's going to go for 303 touchdowns in this game. And I agree with you. I do think there's a little bit off with their connections. And believe me, Brady will start to crater later in the season with his tired arm. It's what he does, across the NFL season, but not in this must-win game. Remember, the Saints clipped them early and gave them a win, a loss right out of the gate. This is a must-win game for Tampa at home. Saints don't play as well on the road, even in plus conditions. It's not like they're going to be in frigid Chicago. They're going to be in Tampa Bay at Raymond James Stadium. But I think Tampa wins this game. They're a 5.5-point favorite, so Vegas thinks they win the game. 51.5-point total, so points are going to be scored. Long story short, yes, I'm starting Antonio Brown in this game. I don't know what running back I'm starting because the Saints bottle up the run, and who knows whose week it'll be between Fournette and Ronald Jones. I don't have to make that decision in a lot of leagues because I own 0 Ronald Jones and only have a few better Fournette shares at this point in time. On the Saints side, hopefully Mike Thomas finally comes back. Who the fuck knows what's going on with this dude right now? I mean, I don't believe these phantom injuries. I just think he is an absolute headache to this organization right now and all the shit he's doing. And are they trying to trade him? Are they not trying to trade him? Do they not want to play him because of injury? But they need him this week.
Yeah, it's a
win with what they got.
It's one of those famous meltdowns that wide receivers have from time to time. I mean, he's better off to go freeze his feet off in a cryogenic chamber like Antonio. I just think he's somewhere else mentally than worrying about playing in an NFL game. Once upon a time, Dallas was thought to have the best wide receiver core. But when you think about it, when Godwin gets healthy, you got Antonio, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. It's not very fair. No, it's not. I know that's not fantasy, but in the playoffs, geez, man, you can't put – everyone always said Tom Brady didn't have weapons, but I don't think he's ever had this kind of weaponry around him. So I'm pretty interested to see how he finishes out the fantasy season. It could be, he could surpass Pat Mahomes in touchdowns if all goes accordingly with these weapons. Yeah,
this is a Pro Bowl team. I mean, literally a Pro Bowl team. All wide receivers have been Pro Bowl. Gronk was a perennial Pro Bowl. Even past his prime, has looked like he's getting his feet back under him. Leonard Fournette has been to the Pro Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. And Ronald Jones has been successful,
right,
in spite of his lack of ability thus far. So, yeah, he just has talent throughout. And then you're pushing players like Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson to like reserve roles, like in case of emergency. Yeah. It's pretty impressive, the level of talent he has. And while he has had Randy Moss in his career and, a few other shining moments, the one Antonio Brown game. Yeah, this, not arguably, the best offensive weaponry that Brady has had in his entire career.
Drew Brees, if Michael Thomas doesn't play, is stuck with Jared Cook and Taysom Hill. So, obviously you got Kamara back there eating up a lot of the targets and running plays. Pretty shitty week for Latavius Murray last week. Had quite a bit of work and didn't do anything with it. That's a hitter.
Who else didn't do shit with it? Traquan Smith as the top wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints did get his 7 targets, 5 for 43. I mean, it's just never going to happen with Traquan Smith and Drew Brees.
No. So Saints-wise, I'm not too keen on anybody but Kamara.
13 targets for a running back will do that for you. 9 for 96. I mean, it's coming and you still can't stop it. Yeah, I mean, he's just uber impressive. And only 12 carries was still 67 yards. Just his per touch when he's healthy is through the roof. So he's going to get all those targets again because Tampa's probably going to be able to bottle the run up a little bit. They're very good against the run as well. But there's no reason he won't be 10-plus targets again in the passing game. Great Sunday night football game. Worst Monday night football game, arguably, of all time.
Yes. Barrios. I've seen his game a couple of times.
Is it possible to flex a Sunday night football game for a Monday night football game? I mean, that's pushing it, but they should consider it at this point in time because the New England Patriots head to MetLife Stadium to do battle with the New York Jets. The Jets are only a 7-point underdog with a 41-point total for this game. It is just disgustingly ugly and not much fantasy value to be had in this game. You get some running backs and get Cam on the New England side if you're desperate. Yeah, I guess Barrios if Crowder doesn't play again, but on the Jets side, literally absolutely nothing.
Nope. My only start in this game that I feel 100% confident in would be Damian Harris. That's it. Other than that, Yeah,
they should be controlling the game. Damian Harris had a big week against the Bills, and they should be in control again this week. So Damian Harris would be the running back I would want to own against the Jets. I do think Cam can do enough to be a low-end QB1, but I'm still a little concerned with Cam and anything else, and just because of the opponent. Darnold might not even play in this game. He had another MRI of his shoulder, and I think he re-aggravated the shoulder injury. So we might be going back to Joe Flacco for Monday Night Football with these New York Jets. So the Patriots defense potentially could be a commodity to have. I think they've been dropped in a few leagues. But, yeah, there's nothing on the receiving side. I mean, Barrios had 11 targets. He turned them into 8 catches for 34 yards against Kansas City. That's a running back stat line right there, 8 for 34.
Leonard Fournette could do more with that than him.
100%. But, yeah, I mean, the one thing is for sure, the slot receiver and the Adam Gase offense will be peppered no matter what. And albeit shitty, that is still 11.4 PPR points for a guy you picked up off the waiver wire. You'll take that in your flex all day, every day. So, yeah, Barrios or Crowder, no one else for the Jets.
Nope, and no. What a shitty way to end the week 9 is with the Pats and the Jets, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, as someone would say. So, you got one bold take before we shut it down, or are you good?
Oh no, we got to go bold. I don't think we went bold yet, so let's go bold. And let's these are off the cuff. I don't research these. I'm scrolling through a game where just I believe. All right, I'm going it. I've went with Darnell Mooney a few times. I'm going back with him. This is the first 100-yard and 1 touchdown game of Darnell Mooney's young career against the Tennessee Titans.
All right, and I'll go back to the well. I had a couple early on, so I'll try to switch it up. I'm going to say, since I'll be a homer here, in that Pittsburgh game, I'm going to say Tony Pollard outproduces Zeke this week.
Boom!
That's my bold take.
Ah, gosh.
Tony Pollard
all my dynasty teams need it. Because I have that dude just about everywhere. And I'm there. Yeah, throw him the ball. Get Tony the ball. TP.
Well, I don't feel like it works out well for Dallas, and at this point, we don't need Zeke on the field if he's going to continue doing what he's doing, which is he didn't fumble this week for the first time in a while, but he's just not there physically or
held on to it.
So.
Yeah, you can tell he's checked out. Dude's looking around on the sideline, just like totally spaced, like doesn't seem pissed off, just does his 3 and out, goes over to the sideline, sits on the bench. And
another concerning thing, when he did get a 9-yard run and a 7-yard run, he motions the sideline to come off the game. So come out the game. So more Tony Pollard and a lot more. Exactly. Well, we missed our buddy John. He's got some things going on, but hopefully we see him next week. Any closing statements before I shut it down?
Nope, just happy my Eagles are on a bye, so I can just enjoy fantasy football with absolutely no regard for wins or losses for 1 week, and they sure need it because this team is just causing me more frustration than any fantasy team that I could possibly own. So, nope, happy to have the Eagles off. Great talking to you. We missed John. We haven't had the 3 of us in a while. Maybe we do that for a Sterling Week 10 playoff push type episode. But no, I'm good. Let's get out of here.
All right. Remember, you can find us at the Fantasy 40 on Twitter. We are on all platforms where you can find podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, you name it, we're on it. So make sure to like, rate, subscribe on all those platforms. Please hit us up on Twitter. We need some questions on Sunday. I know my man Walk usually mans the helm on there, saying if you got questions, we got answers. Usually he is not wrong. So make sure you follow that. I usually chime in with some wrong info there, but you pick your poison, right? You can go risky with me, or you can go chalk with Walk. Oh, that should be one of the new segment, chalk with Walk. Not saying his takes are chalk, but whenever he says it, it's definitely chalk. That means it's going to happen. So that might be something we have to throw in here later on down the season, the chalk with Walk section. But it is a blast, Walker. Till next time, for myself, Andrew Burke, John DeBari, and Matt Walker, we're the Fantasy 40. We're signing off.
Ow! Liked it. Chocolate Walk. All right. I went way over.